I'm Taylor. I'm an alcoholic. I've been through this process with the help of a Big Book Step Study sponsor, a loving patient higher power meetings like this, people like you. I work the steps to the best of my willingness on a daily basis, not just the latter. I have to practice all of them. It's who I am. I'm an alcoholic. Got to do everything. So it's really kind of full circle for me that I'm in this church speaking on this step, right? So when I got sober in for the first time in July of 2019. And I was pretty much a dry drunk for the first 7 months of my sobriety before I decided I needed some help. And it was suggested that I go to AA, and I didn't like that suggestion, but I went to prove a point, and the point was that I wasn't an alcoholic, and here I am. But, you know, when I first came into AA, it was ironically on my dad's birthday, and I had lost my job the year before, also on my dad's birthday, so it was like quite a year. And the very first meeting I went to was my home group, and I walked into that room in a very sketchy building, and didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was doing. I was following somebody in there. I had no idea what was going to happen. The only experience I ever had with recovery or sobriety or AA was when I was a police dispatcher. And if we picked somebody up on protective custody, we would have to call AdCare and see if they had a bed. That was my only experience whatsoever. I knew nothing. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so when I walked into AA and I was met with people who were doing 12-step work, welcoming me, hugging me. I'm not a touchy-feely person. I'm like, who are these people? Why do they want to talk to me? Like, I just want to come here and sit in the corner and just listen, because that's what I was there to do. I was trying to figure out how I was different than everybody else. But 12-step work happens in all shapes and forms, and I got 12-stepped, and I kept coming back. It was a very humbling experience for me, because that was the very first time I said, hi, I'm Taylor, I'm an alcoholic, and I truly didn't know if I believed it or not. And I just said it because it was what everybody else was doing. And I was like, I think I'm trying to fit in, because, you know, I drank to fit in. I did other substances to try and fit in, so I wanted to fit in. And so that's what I did. But I sat there and I heard something, and I cried the entire meeting. And I kept going back. And I didn't fully understand why, but something happened there that I only can come to terms with now, is it's the God consciousness. That's some form of spiritual experience that happened to me that very first time I stepped in that room. And I kept going to meetings. I got a sponsor, kind of, sort of, dipped my toes in the steps, but I wasn't sold on it yet. And I ended up going back out in October of 2020. And it was for one night only. And going out after you've been in AA for some period of time is very hard, because all you can think about is AA. And it really ruins your night, I'm not going to lie. Really ruined it for me. But why I say this is full circle is because I decided that night, I made a sober conscious decision that I was going to pick up a drink again. And I came out here to Worcester. I'm from more the Sturbridge area. I never drank in Worcester, so nobody was going to know me. Nobody was going to see me. You know, I was very methodical about it, because I was like, if I'm going to drink, I'm going to get away with it. I did not get away with it. And when I came out here to Worcester and I started drinking, got kicked out of a couple bars, started the night with one guy, ended it with another, came to in his apartment somewhere up around here. Oh, that was weird. And but by the time I fully started to come out of my blackout, I was on the very steps of this church where we walk in every Saturday morning. And that, to me, was so powerful, because I just sat there, I cried, I looked up at the sky, and I was like, God, I get it. I'm done. And, you know, having to go back to a meeting and pick up a 24-hour coin and admit that I messed up, you know, a very humbling experience, embarrassing, you know, filled with shame and regret and things like that. But it was something that needed to happen. And again, people there who have been through this process, who actively practice a 12-step, welcomed me. And, I dove not exactly headfirst into this program again. It took me a while before I decided, I really have to do the steps, because Taylor's Anonymous is not the way. It's not a very good program. Do not recommend. But I got a sponsor again. I went back to my first sponsor and I was like, I want to do the steps. And she said, okay. So we started. I decided I didn't like the way she was doing it, so I ghosted her. And then got a new sponsor, didn't like the way she was doing it, so I ghosted her, and I went back to my original sponsor, and that's how I ended up here at Big Book Step Study, which is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I was not a very big fan of this meeting. At first, I was like, why can't I speak? I have so much to offer. I had nothing to offer. And sometimes that fear still gets the best of me. When Kathy asked me to speak, and I'm so honored to be able to do this because I've been through this work, immediately filled with fear. Fears that were on my fourth step, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being liked, other people's opinions, fear of judgment. All of those things came up, but, I've been told to say yes, so that's what I did. And when it comes to 12-step work, I recently, over the past few months, finished the process. I'm still actively making amends. I have more to make. I do living amends on a daily basis. But I recently got into, when my sponsor was like, okay, you're cleared to speak, again, fear, and, you're going to start raising your hand for sponsorship. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. Because again, filled with fear of not being good enough, fear of not being a good sponsor. What if they don't like me? All these things that are just so tiny in comparison to what I have learned and the growth in my own life over the past few years since I've been going through the steps and been coming to these meetings. And it says it right there in the very first paragraph. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry the message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. And I wish there was that for me when I first got sober, because even though I was in a program and it was suggested that I come here, I don't know if my counselor was an alcoholic or not. They didn't divulge that information to me. Maybe it would have helped. Maybe it wouldn't have. If when I was still out there drinking and using and, somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I've experienced that too, and this is what I did. Again, maybe it would have helped, maybe it wouldn't have. But I know those, the frothy emotional appeals, that it talks about in the beginning of the book, the surface level arguments, the times when my parents were like, maybe you should go get help. And I was like, no, don't worry, I'm fine, I got it. I'm such an I'm fine, don't worry, I've got it kind of person. I don't know if that would have ever changed the trajectory of my path in sobriety and through these steps. But right in that second paragraph, and I love this so much, life will take on new meaning, to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow about around you, to have a host of friends. I didn't have friends. I had drinking buddies. And once I stopped, those friends, those drinking buddies, they were gone. And I truly experienced actual loneliness. I wasn't happy. I wasn't engaged. I just wanted to be by myself because, at the end, I was drinking alone in my room. I had one of those big Tupperware totes filled with empties because I was like, who am I hiding it from? Nobody's going in my closet. But I had to hide them because I was so ashamed of who I was that I did it. But coming here and doing this work and, actually being able to live a beautiful life today as a result of this is so incredible. I've seen a lot of people come in and out of these rooms. I've experienced loss because of this disease. I have a really beautiful friend group today. And that's something I could have never imagined in my entire life, because why would anybody want to be friends with me when I am so self-centered and so narcissistic and everything always had to be about me and I was just going to blame you so I didn't have to be the victim in a situation I created. It's really, truly an incredible experience. And it says it right there, you must not miss it. If I blink or stop, coming to AA or stop doing the work, I'm going to miss out on those things. I'm the type of person where I'm going to drink and drug my way through everything and everyone before I even pick up again. And if I fail to continue this work actively on a day-to-day basis, I will do that. I saw what happened. I already did that. I already went back out because I stopped doing whatever I needed to do. I stopped going to meetings, stopped talking to people. I wasn't engaged. I didn't want to be a part of my own sobriety. I expected somebody else to do it for me. Like, get me to 5 years sober. Just do it somehow. I'll show up when you get there. Like, that's how I was. I wanted everything done for me. I wanted to have 5 years sobriety 2 days in because I like instant gratification. I want what I want when I want it. And I wanted to do it without doing the work. Because who wants to do that? Who wants to make a fearless and moral inventory of themselves? Who wants to go over their sex inventory with somebody else? I don't want to talk about that. But these things are so important because it helps me help the next alcoholic. It helps me carry the message to somebody else. And I'm able to sponsor somebody today. And, on my journey over the past couple months with sponsorship, I've had multiple women reach out to me looking for a sponsor. And I'm like, okay, so here's my number. We'll get together. I reach out. They don't reach out back. That's okay. It's not going to be perfect every single time. And I have to remind myself that has nothing to do with me. Absolutely not. Maybe they're just not ready. Maybe they're scared. I was there once too. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to reach out to somebody. But I do have a sponsee today, and it's so cool to be able to take somebody through the process and see the light in their eyes because of something that I did myself. And we were talking about it earlier. I can see the change and growth in other people before I see it in myself, which is really cool because I know that's the same way with me. I know I didn't see it. I'm I don't like feeling stagnant no matter what it is in my life, whether it's step work, whether it's at my job, whatever it is. I don't like that feeling because I feel like I'm not good enough or I'm a failure. I'm not succeeding. And everybody has a different path. And I have to remind myself of that where I am at is okay. It's not a race. It's not a competition. I'm a very competitive person. I want to be red and first all the time. I want to win. And truly now I can say, I'm winning at life, which is wild to me. Absolutely wild. I may not be exactly where I want to be, but I'm exactly where I need to be. And that's on God. And I love the last line in the paragraph we read before we stopped. The only condition is that he trust in God and clean house. I grew up with a concept of God. My dad was a pastor for a very long time. And so I grew up with God. And it's really funny because everything was always God's will, God's will. It's always God's will. And I'm like, freaking God's will. Okay, I get it. But everything in my life was always God's will. And it was kind of shoved down my throat. And even things that happened to me in my own life, it was always I would sit there and be like, okay, well, this is God's will, I guess. Whatever happened, good or bad, I'm like, I guess it's God's will. And it truly is. I needed to go through everything I went through to get to where I needed to be. And that is God's will. Because I have a very excellent use of free will and self-will. And I will, if it was my will, I'd still be drinking, guys. I would be a normal drinker too. I would be a normal drinker, that can take it or leave it. And I'm not sitting in the McDonald's drive-thru at 11:30 p.m. with a bottle of wine in my car, in the cup holder, waiting for my chicken nuggets. It's one of those things. True story. I'm not even joking. I did that. Just the insanity around it. But when it comes to the 12th step, I live it every day and I work it every day in ways that I don't even know I do. Whether it's setting a gratitude list to people, whether it's just calling and checking in on somebody, whether it's, I do it with my coworkers, more than I realize. And, because some of them don't drink, but they're not alcoholics, or maybe they are. That's not for me to say. I can't put that label on anybody but myself. And I do it, it's in my own family. It's the ripple effect of this program. And it's really neat. So I got my 5-year coin a couple weeks, hold on, we're in the end of November, holy cow. About a month ago, I got my 5-year coin, and my brother gave it to me. And my brother is 24. We are very, very similar. Like, he's my little twin. And except he's 6'4", so little, not so little, you know. But I asked him to give me my coin because we are very, very close. And my brother and I, we talk about everything. And I knew for a long time, because of the work he did, he used to travel for work. He works a blue-collar job. He would travel up and down the Northeast for work. And I knew how much he was drinking and how hard it was and how bad it was. And it was so funny because he stood up there and at my home group and he's giving me my coin. He's like, yeah, I used to be a pretty bad drinker, but I got it under control. And I just felt everybody's eyes, including my own roll. And I was like, don't worry, man. I was like, we're here. And I texted him later that night. I was like, hey, thank you so much for giving me my coin. Don't worry, we're waiting for you when you're ready. Like, it's 12-step work in my own family. My dad is reading through the big book because he wants to. Like, my dad wanted to read it. And we have the best conversations about recovery in AA because he's starting to slowly understand what we do and why we do it and all of these things. So it's not just 12-step work in the halls, it's 12-step work in my daily life around me. And if I can carry that message to anybody, I absolutely will. I am not the type to shove it down somebody's throat, though I do know some people that could use the big book down their throat. But that's not up for me to decide. The only thing I can do is I can just be a better person, not only for me, I can work the steps for me, I can stay in conscious contact with my higher power for me, and pray that it reaches somebody else. That's all I can do, is I can just work the steps to the best of my willingness on a daily basis, like we say. That is all I can do, and I can carry the message to other people who are still sick and suffering, whether it's in these halls of commitment, whether it's my own brother. Like, I went over to his apartment the other day because his fiance reached out to me. She's like, Adam's not doing okay. And I'm like, cool. So I went over there, and I really honestly should have counted the times he said, I know. Because I did the exact same thing. I know. I didn't know. I was so unwilling to accept help from people that just wanted to do the work. They were doing 12-step work, and I didn't even know what this 12th step was yet. I had no clue. And people were slowly planting the seed, and that's all I can do is just plant the seed, and maybe somebody will get it. That's really cool to me. You know, if I'm a walking big book, so be it. You know, it is. It's a beautiful life I live today as a result of these steps. And being able to share this with you and do 12-step work here right now is really, really cool. I had no idea what step I was speaking on, which I wanted it that way, because I don't want to know, because then I'm going to prepare a whole speech, and then it's not going to go the way I want it to. And I would have been disappointed in myself and been like, oh man, why did I do that? Again, I'm a fear-based person. This is all the things I'm thinking. And even before, we started the meeting, my sponsor walked in, and I was like, you got to pray with me. You got to pray with me. Even though I've already gotten on my knees like 12 times today, you got to pray with me because I am so nervous. But at the end of it, if something reaches somebody, even if it doesn't, that's okay. I still got to share my experience, strength, and hope. And it helps me. It helps me be a better person. It helps me live the steps better. It helps me do better work and continue to work on myself. I wouldn't be here without God and this program. God met me on the road I took to avoid him. And thank God he did. Because I was walking down Grafton Street. That was gross at 4 a.m. It's gross at 4 a.m. And but God brought me to AA, and AA brought me back to God. The conception I have of God is completely different than the God I grew up with. And the God I know now is so loving and so caring and so understanding that I can share that with other people today and not be ashamed of it. Because like when I came into these rooms and they're like, choose your own conception of God, I'm like, I don't really want to. Like, I truly didn't, because and I'm telling you this because the God I grew up with wasn't the God that I wanted to know anymore. And I tell that to my sponsee. I'm like, whatever God you choose, whatever works for you. Like, it's a program, like, while these are suggestions, I don't have to do this work. I get to do this work. I get to come here. I get to speak. I get to meet with my sponsee on Saturday mornings before this meeting. I get to hang out with my friends that are a result of this program doing 12-step work. Like, it's just so cool to me today. And unbeknownst to me, I do it on a daily basis. And then sometimes, you know when like you're talking to somebody and they say something and like hours later you think of a comeback and you're like, dang it. Like, that's sometimes how it is for me. Hours later, I'm like, I was just working the 12th step and I didn't even know it. And I'm like, hey, cool, thanks, God. And then I got to call somebody and be like, guess what I did? Because I'm still prideful and it's a character defect. I want to be proud of myself and I want other people to be proud of me too. But, it's a beautiful thing to be able to do this morning. Thank you again, Kathy, for asking me to speak. And if nobody's told you yet today that they love you, I do. So thank you very much. And Taylor, I'm not going to